This is our episode number 4, and we have Josh from Castles, the NFT Games, and Ian from Woo, Wrestling Online Organization. Any opinions here are just for experience, and they are not meant to be taken as financial advice. Everything you listen to here, it's just for the change chatter. Ian, can you please just introduce yourself in 3 minutes, please? And then Josh, please just introduce yourself after Ian. But it's an introduction about yourself, not your DApp, but you can also speak about your DApp.
All right. First off, I got to say, get ready. Woo is on fire, and we're doing it better than anyone else alive. You're talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, Hive staking, woo, NFT dealing, limousine riding, jet flying son of a gun, and I'm having a hard time holding these NFTs down. Woo! Most people know me as Booker Man. You can call me Ian. That is my God-given name. I appreciate you guys having me on today. I appreciate the time, and I look forward to meet more people in the space and having these discussions. So thanks for having me.
Wow, that's gonna be a hard one to beat, Josh.
I love the energy. I love the energy, but with a project titled Woo, you have to bring it though. So good job. I appreciate that. For everybody who doesn't know me, my name is Joshua, better known as Arid Hall. I am one of the founders of Metasource Games. We create castles. We build on the Wax blockchain. We are creating a game for gamers. We want to have fun. We don't focus on artificial crap like 30-day ROI that's going to cause something to crash and burn in a week. We focus on enjoyment. That's what we are all about. We're all about player ownership and having a good time and building a fantastic community. In Castles, just to give you the shortest overview ever, you're building an empire, right? You're building up lands, you're using all the different resources throughout the game to build up in a huge variety of ways. So much different things that you can do. You can collect land, you can collect crafters, you can collect heroes, you can fight monsters, all sorts of different things that you can do. And you don't have to do all of it, or you can do a little bit of everything. And we hope you have a great time.
Yeah, I was just watching a video from you, and I think you have a co-founder, right, Josh?
Yeah, yes. In fact, we have two now. My business partner's Robert Trussardi. You probably see him. He does streams twice a day. And we frequently do streams together. We have a YouTube channel, we have Twitch channels, and then we also have a new partner, Victor Lopez from Apex NFT. They've been our development partners for a long time, and now we have formally combined. So we have one heck of a team.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. I think that we should go in depth on that in a few minutes. Carl, everyone knows you here on Leo Finance, but do you want to introduce yourself for the audience who's just watching us live?
Yeah, hard to top those two, but I'm Cal. I run Leo Finance. We're building Web3. So to us that means social media, and really the idea of democratizing finance. Personally, I've always been a trader, so obviously in a time like this is my time to shine. So that's the quick rundown of me.
Yeah, and I think that, well, I don't really want to get into the market so fast, but I mean this is what everyone's talking about. And Josh, I do want to get your take on this. With all the Binance and the FTX drama, and it's all affecting the whole market and the projects and the tokens, and everything is down. How do you deal with this as a founder, and what did you plan for rainy days like the ones we are just experiencing?
Yeah, I mean, definitely some rainy days right now. That's one way to put it. I feel badly for everyone who was negatively affected, right? I don't necessarily care about FTX and their bad behavior. Hopefully they'll be punished for anything that they did that was wrong. But I really do feel badly for people who they had their crypto on FTX, or they had a lot of their holdings in Solana, and all of these different dumps by some of these companies that are doing things that are very questionable. I feel very badly for them. For us specifically, markets have been bad. I mean, they've been pretty down for a while. And so we just keep on building. And then that's just kind of what, as a project in the space, you have to engage when people are feeling the pain, but you can't let that sort of thing discourage you. There's always going to be rainy days. We have rainy days the past few days, and there will be rainy days again. But there's also sunny days, and the arrow is still pointing up for Web3. Web3 is still the future. And so now it's just a fantastic time for us to just continue building. And so that's what we're going to do. We're just going to keep on building. We're going to keep on making everything. In fact, we have a major release that's actually dropping today. We release something almost every week, in fact, but a pretty big one coming this week. We just keep on going.
Yeah, and I think that all of this, like anyone who's been in crypto more than 2 weeks knows that the rainy days are so frequent, and that you just have to be very, I forgot the word, but like hold on and not let it kill your vibes. And it's actually funny because Ian, you actually launched a few days before all of this drama. So how has it affected you? And did you ever foresee something like this happening so fast when like just 1 week after your official launch? And how did you prepare for it?
Yeah, and so a little bit of history on Woo, wrestling organization online. We've been on the Hive blockchain and been building this project for now. It has been a 1 year. Actually, yesterday was our 1 year that we announced to the world our project. And what I've encountered in this 1 year is there's been a lot of issues. We basically have been growing this entire project in the bear market, and we've had 3 sales now. One being our pre-sale event, one being a special Raven event, which is one of our licensed wrestlers we work with. And then the most recent was our general sale, which was our public general sale of our alpha packs. And we went ahead and did that on the 31st, like you said, just before all this drama went down. But our last Raven sale happened in it was Father's Day, and it was right after a huge Bitcoin plummet. Hive plummeted. People had about 60% less income than they had on our previous sale. And we've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to have a solid community that we were able to sell out all of our sales. Our most recent sale of 30,000 packs at $2 a piece sold out in an insane 99 seconds. So we have a strong community. We're continuing to build our community, and I think this has been the best time for us to build in this bear market. It's given us time to breathe and time to grow. And when I've been in crypto since about 2013. I mined Litecoin for a number of years. Had a whole room full of ASIC miners, and that thing got hot. I'll tell you that right now. But I've been in this space for a number of years, and as you said too, the rainy days they happen frequently and they happen often. You have to be steadfast, and knowing that, I think that gave me confidence going forward with this project without having to worry too much, because I'm not running with a chicken with its head cut off. You know, I've been through these storms myself. I've watched my assets go up. I've watched them drop hard. I've been down. I've been up. I've been down. I've been every which way. And it's just really, really amazing to see the community we have. And what we're looking to do is actually, and I think this is what helped us really in this bear market, is a portion of our earnings actually go to former professional wrestlers. For example, Perry Saturn, a former WCW, ECW, and WWF superstar, was our first partner, and he actually got 10% of our first sale. And he was able to use that money to pay off his property tax, which was 12 years overdue. We literally saved his house, and there's no better feeling than that, knowing that we are actually having a positive impact on the industry, because there's a void in wrestling. Wrestlers are seen as independent contractors in the United States. They don't get health insurance. They don't have a retirement fund. If they get injured and they're off and they get fired, they're out of luck. Many of these athletes also end up having drug addictions, alcohol addictions, depression, a lot of CTE, which is the concussion syndrome, and the nagging injuries. And they have no one to really help with that. So that's where wrestling organization comes in. We are trying to fill that void, make a positive impact in the wrestling industry, leave it better than when we found it, and also bring old school territory wrestling to the Hive blockchain. Nothing cooler than that.
Wow, it sounds like you were just in time to launch, and it's great to see that you are not dealing with any short-term issues, at least. And I think it's right. Crypto is for it's meant, well, one of the foundations is to help the average Joe, and I think that's amazing that you just managed to help a former wrestler to deal with that. Carl, it just brings me to the next topic. Like, all of this drama is just it appeared because like we have all this scenario with DEXs and SEX and centralized exchanges. So what is your take, or why do you think that people will eventually move to decentralized exchanges, and how do you see this happening in a span of, let's say, 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, I think this is just another reminder for the the 35,627th time that not your key is not your crypto. And especially for normies, that's something that they're going to continually have to learn, because it's not something that's necessarily obvious off the bat. And this is just, we've had so many situations like this. It's pretty amazing. But the level of explosion that we saw with FTX, just because it was, literally the second largest crypto exchange, that had very widespread effects. I mean, the crypto market gave back $300 billion, and it didn't do it for, without good reason. So, where I see us in 5 to 10 years is kind of what's already started to happen, which is that, DEXs have gotten a lot more well adopted. The technology has improved a lot. If you go back about 3 years, DEXs were pretty much, only used by high level crypto traders and, whales. It was called Whale 5 for a reason. I think a lot of people just either struggled to understand it or struggled to use it, or transaction fees were too high because they were on Ethereum primarily. So a lot of things have happened in the last 3 years to make it easier to use DEXs and more feasible for the average person. That being said, I still think in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see DEXs more widely adopted, but you're also going to see SEXs still have a lot of usage. And I think the primary use for them is as an on-ramp and off-ramp to fiat. I don't really see that use case going away anytime soon. For a DEX to actually get, a fiat on-ramp, off-ramp is very, very difficult, if not, impossible in the current state. So I still think 5 to 10 years from now, you're still going to see that on-ramp, off-ramp. But I do think the average person is going to get a lot more usage of DEXs. And I'm a pretty avid promoter of Thorchain. I have no affiliation to them, but I've been investing in it for a long time, and I've been a user of it. And something that had, and really one of the big points to be made out of this FTX thing is that a lot of exchanges are doing a lot of funny business on the back end. So, even Binance is most likely doing something crazy with customer funds that we don't know about. And FTX obviously was to a very large degree. And the cool thing about decentralized exchanges is that you can have provable solvency You can see exactly where money is, where it's going, who's getting it. It's all verifiable on chain. When you start to get into a centralized exchange, that's where things are on their own internal books. They're not on the blockchain in a lot of different cases. So they can move money around, they can shuffle it around, and we don't know what they're doing. So DEX is really solved for that. And I think that's the big problem in the recent market. And if you go back 3 months to the blow up of Three Arrows Capital and all these other places, that was really the driving reason, was that they were doing funny things on the back end and not really securely using customer funds. So I do think DEX has solved that problem. And I think that that problem is only going to get worse over the next few years, but then it will get better.
Yeah, DeFi definitely opens up a door with like huge possibilities. And Josh, so once we have all these DeFi scenarios set up, it brings us the possibility to open up to more partnerships and collaborations. And you mentioned that recently you just added a new founder. Tell us a little bit about how, like, what was the process? Like, not about the project itself, but what was happening in your head when you decided to add a new partner to expand and to collaborate?
Well, adding something as big as a new partner is not something that anybody does lightly, right? That certainly was not the case with us either. It's something that took a lot of time and a lot of conversations. But in our space, it's all about who provides value to the company. And you certainly don't want to take on a partner that is just going to drag the company down in one way or another. That's definitely not something that anybody wants to do. You want to make sure that anyone that you work with is also of the utmost integrity. And so you should definitely, just as general life advice, before you hand anybody keys to the kingdom, you better know who they are, right? But we've been working with our new partner, Victor, for over a year at this point. And so we've been working together, and he had been an independent developer for our game for, like I said, over a year now. And it was just a situation where he always went above and beyond. And I know that maybe sounds cliche, but in the Web3 space, I have found, and I'm sure that I'm not alone in this, if people are honest, there are a lot of developers in Web3 that are just looking for a quick buck. I know a lot of them. I have encountered a lot of them. We've been burned by some of them, right? I mean, the list goes on and on. It's not just the centralized exchanges that are sometimes doing shady things. It's often developers, they overcharge, they under-deliver. And that's the polar opposite of what we have with our new partner. He has always charged us a fair amount. He has always gone way above and beyond what we've asked. If there are bugs and things like that, we don't even have to ask. They pay attention to our Discord. Somebody reports a bug, they'll fix it in the middle of the night. Sometimes we have to tell them to stop fixing bugs in the middle of the night. Man, it's 1 a.m. your time. Go back to sleep. It's okay. Fix it in the morning. But they're that dedicated. And finding a team and a partner with that kind of work ethic is practically impossible. And so really, when the time came for us to join forces, it was a no-brainer. The ethic that they brought to the table was absolutely in line with ours. And we knew that was the right thing to do. I would pump the brakes for everybody else. The story doesn't always go as smoothly as that. So I don't want anybody to think, find your developer and then bring them in and give them everything. Just be careful, of course, because there are more bad actors than there are good actors. Unfortunately, that's just life in general, I would say. But it's been everything. Everything's been great for us. And by adding them in also, now we have their whole team that is under our wing, and it allows us to not only continue building the multiple different game modes that all fall under the Castles header, but it also allows us to branch out and start offering assistance to other games. We have a number of games on the Wax chain that have been struggling, and largely due to, unfortunately, bad developers. And bad developers that overcharge and underdeliver. They may, I'm not going to give anybody's numbers away, but they'll pay something like 10 times what a fair rate is, and they'll expect something to be done in 3 months and it takes 6 months. That's where we are now stepping in to fill that gap. We have ethical, high quality standards that we can bring, especially in the Wax blockchain where we have the most experience. And we've had a tremendous amount of projects that have been reaching out to us now that they know that we will help. We're available for hire. It's been pretty intense because our work ethic is known on the chain. We have a reputation, and we intend to make sure we uphold that.
Yeah, I always say that having a good team, it's 50% of the work, because it doesn't matter if you have good tokenomics. If your team is not working in synergy and you pick the wrong people, your project is not going to boom, even if you have the best tokenomics ever. And being in crypto opens up a lot of possibilities for jobs. Whenever you are, like if you've been in the space for a number of years, like Ian, since 2013, it's always easier, or at least I think so. It's easier to start your own crypto project if you are already part of another crypto project, which is, I think, what Ian is all about. And so the Woo has a solid team. Ian, how did you manage to get all this synergy you have today? And what obstacles did you find in this whole year where you were just building before launching? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and to Josh's point, like it is hard to find good developers that aren't. Once you tell them it's an NFT or a crypto project, your bill just went up 10 times, just like he was saying. It's constant and all the time. I was lucky enough. I've always been really good at leading a team and figuring out who does what best. And then I'm really, really good at getting people to follow a vision and follow along and get this project done. It's just a skill that I've had ever since I was born, God-given skill. The team originally started, it was very, very small. It was myself, a friend of mine who I've known for many years, goes by the name Munchies McGee, a streamer who I knew had great potential for marketing, going by the name of Cupins, and one of my best friends since college, going under the name of Captain Spaulding. Those were the 4 core members when I started actually formulating this idea. And it was a lot of conversations of just talking to people and talking it out, sitting down with Captain Spaulding and with some dice and some cards and actually figuring out how we would actually want the game mechanics to, how we would want them to work. I've also been a big fan of board games, and the Captain Spaulding actually developed board games before. So we have that knowledge of being able to sit down and figure it out before it even goes into any type of development. We got lucky and we found an amazing artist, Dom. He's an artist out of Kenya, and he has given this project the aesthetic that we have went forward with. It's more of a nostalgic, gives you the Super Nintendo vibes with a lot of our artwork, and also with old school territory wrestling that goes back to like 80s and 90s wrestling. So we really wanted to dip into that nostalgia, and the biggest hurdle I have found is developers. That is the biggest hurdle of finding quality people that can actually develop. And not only that, because we're on the Hive blockchain, and so having a developer that understands Hive, who has been a part of that community, and who can help us grow in that space, and also move forward to if we ever want to do anything cross chain. We got very lucky in meeting Tobias. He is our lead developer. He's known in the Discord as the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Again, he always delivers. He takes it very, very seriously. Actually, when I was interviewing him about the project and letting him know about the project, as I was telling it to him, he was going on chain and buying assets because he saw the potential in the project and he really loved what we were doing. And the biggest hurdle, like I said, was just finding developers, but also not taking any shortcuts. There's so many Discords and so many Twitters that you can see they just went through and they bought followers. The Discord is filled with 50,000 people, but there's 20 people online or something like that. Only a few people chatting. We have done a very, very slow, steady, natural growth, and that has been by far the biggest success to build the foundation to where we weren't going to sink through the ground. Having true interactions with people, and also speaking to what Joshua was saying about building a reputation. We've said what we were going to do with our roadmap. We gave ourselves milestones, and we have lived up to everything we said we were going to do. We haven't missed anything yet, knock on wood. And we want to continue building that trust, because being a crypto user, the biggest thing for me is trusting the team, trusting the project, believing in it. And if you break that trust, you're dead in the water. So my word is my bond. When I tell you I'm going to do something, damn sure I'm going to do it. So those have been kind of the biggest hurdles. But we now have a team of 13 people. We've expanded over this last year, adding musicians, artists, developers, graphic designers, community leaders and also bloggers. Some of our community have been making some phenomenal content and have become official content creators for Wrestling Organization Online. And we give them some sort of incentives, usually sending them some of our tokens or packs that they can even give away to their community if they like.
Yeah, the best part of being a part of a team is that you're able to buy in the project. It's not like any other company, and you can actually help the project grow. And at the same time, you grow your own stack. And we're all selfish, and that's fine. So I think it's amazing that you can actually engage with a project and work for the project, and at the same time buy in the project. Kyle, being a founder is not for everyone, especially in crypto, and you definitely must have people skills and leadership skills. Do you ever feel like selling or going venture capital and stop the stress and the long hours, or what keeps you what keeps your gas tank full?
Yeah, it's I think the motivation part comes a lot from the community and seeing people use the product or products, and that really drives the future of it. I think when you first start out, you have an initial vision and you start building that. And then as people are actually using it and giving you feedback, that kind of drives the momentum from that point. But yeah, I think, and kind of a nice little illustration to what's happening in the broader markets is that once you start getting, venture capital involved and you start getting investors involved, things can get a little bit more complex. I think for me, one of the great motivations of doing a lot of this stuff is having the latitude to do anything that I think is right, and having that long-term future vision and just being able to execute in the moment of anything that is, in my opinion, correct to get to that place. And I think if you start getting those more traditional people involved, things get a little bit more hairy, because they might not like when you do certain things. So for me, one of the initial motivations to even get into this was to have, freedom to pursue the vision. So I would say that's probably the biggest motivation to not go that route, and to stay kind of independent. I think if you look at some of the best projects in the space, they're actually developed from that kind of scratch mentality.
Yeah, and going venture capital or just asking for funding really ties your hands down for some decisions. So, Ian, you mentioned that you did a lot of funding with your original sales, and you spent 1 year developing. Um, what's in store for the next 6 months? Do you have many updates planned? Just like Josh mentioned that he has new announcements and updates every week. What's the roadmap, and how did you build it? How did you architecture it completely to make it at least ambitious without being too dreamy?
Yeah, and so that was one of the first things I made sure to think of is give a roadmap that is doable. And I knew once I thought of this project and how I envisioned executing it, I knew it was doable. I knew that we could get it done. It was a matter of cost at that point. And I do have to say, a lot of Woo would not exist without a project like Splinterlands on the Hive blockchain, showing in a big way how NFT play to earn gaming could strive on the Hive blockchain. Not only that, we got really, really lucky being introduced to this space, and I think it's important to really continue to give new incentives and new ways that people can interact with the project. We've added NFT mining with our cards to give those cards utility. We added staking and HP delegations, which really helped us grow in our curation. But coming up in the future, what we have going forward is we have our land sale. Again, this is wrestling, old school territory wrestling on the blockchain. So we actually need land to actually have your wrestling organization travel around and run your shows. So we're looking to do a land sale starting next year, and we're looking to launch the game also next year with play to earn capabilities. And that's really what we're looking forward to. We don't want to dip in and ask for too much too fast. We don't want to keep going back to the well too many times and drawing from our users money. So we want to give them a good value, and we also want to space out our sales enough so that no one's really being negatively affected by having to keep pumping out more and more cash.
Yeah, and I think that you having so much experience with another game, it really gave you like some of the tips and all the know-abouts of the industry. Josh, you're the founder of Metasource Games with castles and Metasource cards. Are these two connected? And how do you manage to not neglect either side? And how did you envision this synergy? Can you give some tips for any potential founder about having two side projects that become one big umbrella? And how do you manage that?
Yeah, that's tricky, right? It's not something that I necessarily recommend to everyone because it is tough. We spend a lot of time and energy making sure that we have a lot of balancing. There is a lot to balance in Web3 games. Anything that you have drastically out of whack will very negatively impact your game if you launch like that. And so you do have to be careful. I think the biggest thing for Web3 from a gaming perspective that I've seen done wrong so many times, and this is very much related to this. The thing that I always see wrong is people will come up with their numbers, right? Their tokenomics, whatever you want to call it, and they will absolutely commit to those numbers and be completely and totally inflexible. And the problem with that is every single one of us creators is human. And even if we spend 3 to 6 months working super, super hard on tokenomics, you can make mistakes. You can have imbalances. And the very worst thing you can do for your game is to launch it, find out 3 weeks down the road, hey, we need to make a change, but refuse to make that change because you're committed to your tokenomics. If you find a problem, fix the problem. Now, I'm not saying that you should knee-jerk react and overhaul the whole system. That's not something that anyone should do. But one thing that I've found many, many times that Web3 creators are not capable of having flexibility. And sometimes this is due to the aforementioned bad dev problem where, they literally don't have access to the contracts. They can't make changes. That's a huge problem. We've had to make changes. When we first launched, many of our features weren't live. We soft launch. We're launching things slowly over time so that people can play with what is ready now. And when the next stages are ready, they can start playing with those. And so when we soft launched, we used our built-in tools to have our primary token, which is MetaSource, pretty straightforward. We had it only output 20% of its regular output for the first, I think it was a couple of weeks.
Okay, I think we lost Josh. He did mention that there was a snowstorm going on in the back. I hope he can come back. Cal, so Leo Finance, or as we unofficially call it, the Leoverse, and just continuing with the Josh topic, the Leoverse is a huge umbrella with a lot of dApps, well, smaller dApps built on top of it. So going with the same vibe, how do you manage to keep an eye on everything and keeping everything under control with so many things, well, with so many fronts to fight? Josh, we'll go back to you once Carl.
Sorry about that, guys.
No worries.
Yeah, it's, it gets pretty complicated. I think one thing that was a big growing pain the past year that we kind of had to figure out was how to commingle the team and take, as the project scaled and we brought in more developers, it became pretty difficult to get developers to work together. We actually had like a pretty major issue where 2 or 3 of the devs just kind of started to get into it a lot and fight over certain things. So what we ended up doing was basically spinning off the team into two major categories, which was and is today the social side of the spectrum and the DeFi side. Because with Leo, we're building social apps on Hive, so that's kind of the core product, which is leofinance.io and the Leo mobile app. And then we've also got the DeFi side where we're doing smart contracts and derivatives, and that commingling those two teams was relatively difficult. So what we did was just split them apart, and that turned out to be a really great choice, especially as we brought in a lot more developers. It was very easy to run the project when it was 1 to 3 developers, and we were just kind of building things in a vacuum. As soon as we started to branch out and do more complex things and bring in developers of different calibers, because you have junior devs, you have senior devs. People fight over the best way to do things. Every dev has their own, spin or take on how to do something. So when you start to put 2 different developers together and say, hey, this is what we're trying to achieve, how should we do this, and how are we going to implement this? They both have their own ideas of how to do it, and they're not necessarily going to work together very well. So a strategy that I've taken, especially over the last year, has been to get a senior dev and a junior dev working together, and 2 people that actually get along, and get them to build something together, and then kind of split people off into pairs like that. And then so we essentially have done that in a lot of different ways with both DeFi and social, is just to have a junior dev, a senior dev working on something very specific. So for example, like the Leo mobile app, and then another pair, a senior and a junior dev working on leofinance.io, another one working on some backend stuff, And then on the DeFi side, you know, senior and junior working on a smart contract, senior and junior working on the actual UI for it. And that strategy has worked really well for us lately. And you know, now having, you know, over 15 developers, it's been really important to kind of split people off.
Yeah, and I'll get back to that once Josh finishes. Josh, you were saying something about 2 weeks ago.
You know what? I'll just sum my whole thing up in very short order because I have no idea where I was in what I was saying. Just to make it as simple as possible. In order to balance projects, projects need to remain flexible. Something as simple as even tokenomics cannot be absolutely set in stone and unable to change. And because issues will arise, and any kind of, I've seen it with so many projects in the past, they're absolutely committed to their original design, even though it's clearly been proven to be flawed, and it just ruins the whole project. We have always told our players, you know, we will follow our white paper as closely as humanly possible. But if we find some glaring mistake, we will make a change for the health of the ecosystem. We've had to do it multiple times. And, you know, just players need to be understanding of that. And also teams need to remember that when you find mistakes, you fix them. You don't stay committed to mistakes.
Yeah, and crypto gave the tools for 20 years old for 20-year-olds to start their own company, but most of them have no real workplace experience. And some of these aspects, like Carl mentions, like, you know, you need to know how to be a good leader, how to divide a team, how to having nested teams is key, which is also why Chain Chatter was born, to actually give founders, potential founders, people who want to get into crypto, to learn about all of the founders' road from founders. So all of these 20 years old are dominating a scene that would be usually dominated by 50-year-olds with another worldview. So Ian, is this a good thing? And what are the pros and the cons of having a whole different set of leaders striving for getting a different worldview?
So I think overall, it's a good thing. It's nice to it's always good to get new perspectives and new ideas, and not just stick with what has traditionally been there. I think there's also going to be pitfalls for it when people come into this space, especially if they don't have any experience in running a business or managing a team. I was lucky enough to have started numerous businesses before and run numerous teams before this, so it wasn't anything foreign to me. But I think going forward, this will help not only the individuals that are coming in, because it's trial by fire. If you make bad mistakes and you're not flexible with your project and with where you are moving forward, there is a possibility of failure. But the biggest thing is you can't be scared of failure. You have to be able to be willing to take a risk and believe in the project that you're looking to make. And I think we're going to see a resurgence of people gaining confidence in this space at younger ages, and in the future, that's going to do nothing but help the entire ecosystem, because younger people coming in get these experiences earlier in their life. As they move forward, and these are the people that stick around, they're going to continue building in this space, and they're going to have that new knowledge. So I think in the long run, getting people in this early, getting them to take risks on their projects, the ones that succeed and the ones that are able to pull through and keep going, are going to be the future that we see in DeFi, gaming, and Web3.
It is always painful to see a crypto project that had so much potential to just like watch it burn because of the leadership, or because of the team, or because of just some inexperience. And Carl, we've just seen this like since Mount Gox, but recently with Terra and FTX, and I don't want to go back to that, but it's just an example. So all of these events make people lose faith in crypto or just say, oh, this is a scam. See, I told you this was going to happen, blah, blah, blah. So can the status quo be actually changed? And what can founders do to push this? And what can the average Joe do to do their part in all of this movement that we've all been part of for several years?
Yeah, I think whether you're a founder or, an investor or a user of Web3, the biggest thing to have in your repertoire is resilience. So if you're resilient, you can get through the bear markets. If you're resilient, you can get through blowups like FTX. If you're resilient as a founder, you can get through, developers leaving, a big product mishap, or your tokenomics not working right, like Josh was saying, and it's all about being able to kind of like that time old idea of like a Rocky movie where, no matter how many times you get knocked down, keep getting back up, keep changing things, keep iterating, and keep working hard. I think having that kind of long scale, 5 to 10 plus year vision, and just understanding that, the road to get there is not going to be a straight line. It's going to be, a swirly line. There's going to be, road bumps, speed bumps along the way, and all sorts of roadblocks that will, try to prevent you from getting there. And just being able to kind of get through those and come out the other side is really the key. So I would say, as a space, if we can teach people resilience, teach people to, just keep getting back up and making sure that, ironically, in the face of something like FTX, it's if you can avoid having complete blow up risk where, keep things sectioned off in a way where if something goes, really, really wrong, it doesn't blow you completely up. Right. So you want to prevent yourself from dying. You want to prevent yourself from, losing all your capital, because you can always get back up if you don't do those things. So that would be my main lesson to, both founders and crypto investors and crypto users.
Iteration is key when trying to come up with the best version of your product. And as Josh mentioned, you must have flexibility when you are building something. It doesn't matter what it is. So, Josh, did Bitcoin came to stay, or is this just another iteration? Because we know Bitcoin was based on something else, but now we have DeFi, and who knows what else we will have in 3 years. Was Bitcoin just a simulator of what is coming next, or did Bitcoin came to stay?
Well, that's a fantastic question. I feel like Bitcoin is probably not going anywhere. I think that it's long-term, it will rise back up. It will continue to be strong. It is very independently controlled now, right? Nobody has too much influence over it. Obviously, there are definitely some big holders that could cause some issues, but decentralization is a good thing. There's definitely some aspects of it that are not good. The blockchain is good. Let me just make sure that point is clear. And I think Cal earlier was talking about how the difference between a DEX and a SEX, the decentralized exchange versus centralized exchange. And the decentralization is fine and good. Centralization can be manipulated. That's where it runs into some issues. Bitcoin is very unregulated, and so in that respect, it can be risky. It can be dangerous, but it isn't open to being manipulated as much. And so I think that that's a very good thing for us. There are things about decentralization that we don't love. One thing that a lot of people like about decentralization and Bitcoin is the anonymity. But anonymity, I don't think is a healthy thing for the blockchain. I think the blockchain needs to get away from anonymity. And as the sooner we do, the better we'll all be for it. Because anonymity just leads to people with nefarious intentions, taking advantage of other people. And it also leads to things like money laundering and et cetera. And that's one of the big reasons why governments are opposed to decentralization. It's really the anonymity that's the problem, not the decentralization. And so for us specifically, we follow that decentralized principle, but without the anonymity. We're very transparent. Everyone knows what our wallets are. You can track all of our transactions. We're happy for that. But we build our game entirely on the blockchain. We have no backend server at all. It blows everyone's minds when they learn that. Our game is 100% on chain, literally. There's not a single aspect of our game that does not run on the chain. And the reason we do that is because the chain is good. The chain can be verified. The chain doesn't get manipulated. When you see these big problems that come up, sometimes they affect Bitcoin and other coins, but the problems are all due to centralized backend servers. If we go back a number of months when Axie had a hack that stole like 500 million in assets, things like that. That was all due to centralized servers. It had nothing to do with the chain. And so we very strongly believe in keep things on the chain. That's how you stay secure. You own your keys, you own your wallet, you do everything that way.
Yeah, we have all these keywords like transparency, immutability, decentralization, and some projects believe that just by starting an idea or a concept and just slapping some of these keywords, they will be, oh yes, we are decentralized. We are the next thing in the blockchain. When most of the times they are just another project that is using a blockchain to enable them to grow, but they are not actually neither transparent nor decentralized. So Ian, I have a question for you. So how did you manage to make the Woo vision what it is right now, and how did you pick the real foundations and the correct buzzwords? Because in this space to actually grow, you have to actually have a solid product, which Woo is like has a lot of potential, and I do like it. I actually have some alpha packs, but yeah, go ahead with all of this.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest benefits that gave us credibility is that we partnered with real life wrestlers. Like, for example, Perry Saturn, being a part of the project gave it some credibility. People that are into wrestling would know who that person is. Also bringing Raven on board and having him being part of the project, and him also tweeting about us to his followers and bringing us up on his wildly successful podcast, that all really helped. But I think one of the biggest things that really helped, I have to throw it to Cupins, our marketing leader. He is just really smart, really great at engaging the community, picking the right SEO words, getting the message out there, and having good ideas of how we can continue to grow in various spaces, let that be Twitter or on hive.blog within the Hive community. So it was more about knowing I could trust in what he was doing on his end for marketing, and knowing that he does a great job. And that freed me up to be able to make relationships and build those relationships that I've had previously with wrestlers and bring them into this space. So that was, I think, the biggest factor that brought to our success. It was having partnered wrestlers, and then also giving back to the wrestling industry. Again, we are looking to leave wrestling better than we found it. There is a huge injustice being done to a whole class of workers. When you break into the wrestling business, a lot of times what will happen is you'll be out working out at the gym. A promoter will come up to you and start talking to you. Oh, I could get you in front of 10,000 people. Women are going to love you. They're going to be asking for your autograph. Nowhere you go, you'll be safe. Everyone's going to know your name. You can't even buy groceries anymore. And they give you this idea that you're going to be this super famous superstar, and they kind of feed on that dream. Then they ask you for thousands of dollars to train you as a wrestler. And a lot of times you're being trained by someone who only has a couple of years into the business and is mistrained themselves. I've seen plenty of wrestlers get into the business, jump over the top rope, making their entrance and breaking their leg in half. And now they are in a really bad position. So again, there is a need for what we're looking to do, not just in the crypto space and on Web3 and gaming, but actually in the real world. Again, with wrestlers being independent contractors, us partnering with them and giving them new sources of revenue, we're really looking to, again, leave it better than we found it.
Yeah, and it's just like you mentioned, it's all about the strategy. You have to have a solid strategy and to actually do it correctly. But that leads me to Cal. So I was in a Telegram group that just grew like 700 people in just 3 days. They were like 300. They are like 1,000 now. And the way that people interact right now on these kind of groups, it's just like, I'm 33 years old and I just don't understand most of it. So where is marketing and PR going? Like crypto TikTok is booming and the new generations are harder to reach to. Does this work in detriment of crypto, or can it push projects who can adapt to this towards success?
Yeah, I think marketing has always been a relatively quickly evolving industry. Ever since the internet kind of started gaining adoption, any company that was, doing anything had to start learning about the internet, start figuring out what to do, whether you were the local pizza shop or, Facebook or Instagram or, now a crypto project. You have to kind of stay on where things are going and go where the attention is. So I think a lot of people that benefit from marketing are the ones who have a good idea of their target audience and are placing themselves where that target audience is spending their time. For really any business, I think that what is happening on the internet right now is a great thing. I think if you learn how to leverage it, it's a great way to build your business and generate more attention, traffic, revenue. And if we're focusing in on crypto projects, going to places like TikTok and Twitter and even Facebook and other platforms is a great way to get people in to your project. Kind of the key thing to do, I think, is look at what type of users you currently have. And kind of create a matrix of, who those users are, what they care about, where they tend to spend their time and energy and focus and even money. If you know what they're buying, if you know what they're doing on a daily basis, then you'll have a much better idea of what to put in front of them. For us, we started spending a lot of time doing TikTok marketing and, talking to different influencers there and then posting our own content. And one of the big things that I think I learned from doing the TikTok marketing is that there's a very specific type of audience that's spending a lot of time on Twitter. There's a very specific type of audience that's spending a lot of time on TikTok. And then there's certain qualities of those two audiences that's kind of overlapping when you look at like a typical Leo Finance user. So if you can kind of bridge together what those two target audiences love to see, what they're, interested in seeing, and kind of use that as a lens into the type of content you should create, I think it can be a great thing. Everything we're in probably the, late stages in terms of the game of digitization of everything, right? So, most things have now moved to completely being digital. And COVID definitely helped move all that along. So we're seeing, a lot more people work from home, a lot more people doing things like Zoom. Like 3 years ago, would we have done a Zoom call like this and talk to each other and been able to share about our projects? So all of this stuff has kind of added up to be very beneficial for crypto, in my opinion. And another cool thing I saw was that, Instagram just did a deep integration of NFTs And a bunch of other mainstream companies are starting to integrate NFTs in a big way. And that is only going to continue. And that's only good for the industry, in my opinion. It's only going to bring more eyeballs, more attention to it. I was just talking to a friend yesterday, actually, about how, 3 or 4 years ago, when I used to talk about Bitcoin and crypto, when people asked what I did, most people they'd never heard of Bitcoin. They literally had never heard of it. They didn't know what crypto was, didn't know what Bitcoin was. And now fast forward, and you could go ask a 79-year-old grandma if she knows what Bitcoin is, and 9 times out of 10 she's heard of it. And I would say 1 or 2 times out of 10 she actually owns some Bitcoin, which is just wild how fast the space has moved. So all of this stuff has really compiled itself to be extremely beneficial for crypto projects, as long as you learn how to stay in front of it and leverage it for your benefit.
Yeah, and especially now that so many people know about crypto, having a regionalized marketing strategy is great. But as Cal says, you have to know your audience and define what you want to achieve and who do you want your users to be. So, Josh, Metaverse is a top 20 dApp in the whole game industry, and it's the 7th most used app in Wax. So what was your strategy, or what tips or advice can you share to the audience about growing so much without losing focus?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a fantastic question. We are always just looking to keep going, right? There are so many projects that are just projects, right? I mean, I almost don't like the word projects because it kind of has a negative connotation. We're building a game. We're a game company. We're developers, and I suppose Castles is a project, but it's more than that. And I feel like that's something that the audiences and players need to look at things with a critical eye. How active are the developers in the chat? I think it was Ian earlier who talked about growing their community organically. I agree with that. That's fantastic. I have seen the same things that you guys mentioned before about I've seen Discords with 50,000 or maybe even 100,000 users, and then you go to their chat channel that's labeled something along the lines of general chat, and it's dead. There's nobody in there, or conversations are run by bots, and you can tell they have nothing to do with anything. And there are bot chat services in Discord and things like that. It's ridiculous. And these things are rampant in the community, and it's a big problem. We stay focused by staying engaged with our community. And one of the reasons why we've grown so much is we spend a ton of time in front of the camera, talking to our users, letting them ask whatever the heck question they want. We chat a ton in our Discord, just all the time. We pop in, we answer questions, we ask questions, we collect feedback, all sorts of things. We stay engaged by keeping our community engaged. We stay focused by working together organically. We've got one of the best Discords, I feel, in crypto, and we've got, I think, something along the lines of 8, maybe 9,000 users in our Discord. It's not massive, it's not small. It's a pretty strong number, but the thing that we have that I find superior to almost any other crypto Discord that I go in is at any given time, there's probably 5 to 10, if not 20 plus of our players who are really in our Discord, actually talking about the game, asking advice about, I'm going to change my strategy. I'm going to collect more of these NFTs. I'm going to sell these. I'm going to go this route. We have channels for players to arrange trading. We've got sales listing feeds so that people can watch, collect data if they want to, all sorts of things like that. And we have a fantastic community for it. We just have a ton of engagement, and we don't have to. It's been so nice because we don't really have to worry about being online all the time because our community is so good. If a brand new player comes in and says, "Hey, tell me about this game. I just found it on DApp Radar and I'm curious about it." Obviously, if we're around, we love answering questions and engaging with new users. But our community is so great that they always are there and they'll always answer questions. And we've got just about the friendliest community ever. In fact, I just had somebody, I think it was yesterday, actually. We had a new user come in and be like, "Oh, I've been watching you guys on DApp Radar for a while. I don't have any assets yet, but I'm going to get some." And they said, the reason I'm going to get some is, the markets are red, everything's bad, everything's difficult. And I jumped into your Discord and not a single person is even talking about that. No one's talking about that, fear, uncertainty, doubt. Nobody's talking about the markets. All that anybody's talking about is, "Oh, I'm building this. I'm building up my empire. I just got my 4th castle. Isn't that awesome?" And everybody's happy. And that's what we've got to do as projects and companies, is we've got to not be focused on the negatives, but stay focused on just having a good time, enjoying what you've got, building what you're building, and stay active. We've got a big release that's dropping today. It's a week behind schedule, but our community is not upset about it. They know that if the product is not polished as to our standards, then we're not going to release a buggy product. And we're transparent about it. We pop in there and we're like, "Hey, we're doing good today. We're testing this, but this part's broken, so it probably won't be today." And as long as we stay transparent and engaged with everybody, we found that policy has always been good. Of course, there's always going to be some negative people that come in out of nowhere. So I'm not saying that there's never any trouble, but you just gotta move past it.
Yeah, it's just funny how opinions overlap when you have different founders every week. Sorry, I think. Oh yeah, sorry. My screen just went dark for a second. Yeah, it's just funny because we just had a founder two weeks ago who mentioned that that you have to build a project, and I don't, you don't like the word project, Josh, but even without the tokenomics, but for the user experience, the people must want to use the game or want to engage in the community without the monetization. The monetization is just a plus, but people must be lured to using the game. So, and I have a question from the audience for Ian, but I just want to take this chance from the community side that you mentioned, Josh, and about Discord and all of that. Cal, what's the upside of having a tokenized blogging platform where the community can go there and leave their own opinions and have a conversation on chain that will never get lost, against Discord, where it's obviously more dynamic and more friendly, but in the end, if you are not there right there, you will lose, like you will miss on the conversations. And what are the pros and the cons?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pros to real-time communication over something like Discord. I think a lot of, like Josh was saying, like a lot of the projects that you look at when you jump into their Discord, if you see people actively engaged in there, that's a great sign of a healthy community that's, active and cooperative with each other. And then, so there's a lot of pros to that. The cons, like you said, are, sometimes you'll lose, messages, and if people aren't in Discord all the time, then they're not seeing it. And then obviously for a project like us, we want to see on-chain activity. We want to see people creating comments, creating posts. So if we have too much activity in Discord and not enough on-chain, that obviously just looks like it's kind of leaching activity that could be, directly on the project into a Web2 platform like Discord. So there's kind of a nice little balance there. With us recently launching Threads, which is basically just Twitter on the blockchain, we've seen a lot of that kind of short-term, short-form conversational engagement actually move on-chain from Discord. which has been really cool. You see a lot of different use cases emerge from that, which is like people taking screenshots from Discord and sharing them on threads, and vice versa. So it's actually just kind of supercharged both experiences where, you know, people on Discord are taking things from threads and bringing it there, having a conversation about it. People are taking, you know, memes and other conversations from Discord, posting it on threads, having a conversation there. I think one of the big benefits of any project using a Web3 platform, to basically share updates, to engage with their community, are kind of like those core ideas behind crypto in general. I like to use Bitcoin mining as an example because it's pretty much the oldest form. But you're incentivizing engagement. You're incentivizing the activity that you want to see. So with the Bitcoin network, when it launched, the whole idea behind mining, and it's still true to this day, is that you have people verifying the network in exchange for getting paid, right? And they're getting paid in Bitcoin. And that whole idea of earning Bitcoin to verify the network is central to Bitcoin's network effect and adoption. So I really think for any crypto project out there, building, like, let's say that posting your updates or your main posts on something like a Leo Finance as opposed to Medium, or in conjunction with Medium, which is what, you know, I would personally recommend. You're able to incentivize people for commenting on that post, for leaving feedback, for engaging with you. And ultimately, you know, to outside investors, it makes your project look a lot more, a lot more attractive because you have people engaging with your updates. And then internally, it's extremely beneficial. This is something I've found, because you can leverage the community to get real feedback and, you know, real-time updates on what they think of what you're doing. So in my opinion, you know, Web2 definitely has more attention. So you shouldn't just, like, I think a lot of people on Web3 love to say, abandon Web2, use Web3 exclusively. I don't actually believe in that. I think Web2 still has a lot of attention. We need to leverage it. But Web3 has a lot of engagement. And I think that if you learn to leverage it, it has a whole different set of pros and cons.
Yeah, and feedback is key, and listening to your community is something that Woo has excelled at. And I have a question from the audience, Ian. I like the idea of not taking any shortcuts in developing a game, but can you give us at least a tentative quarter in 2023 where we can see the release of the alpha game? And also, happy first anniversary. Shout out to RCC24.
Awesome. Yeah. I appreciate the question. The community we've had has been awesome. So moving forward, our tentative roadmap, I just had a meeting with the developers just the other day. And our tentative roadmap for a release for the game is like Q3 of 2023. We want to make sure that we have enough time to implement the land NFTs, have the play to earn, be able to work, have everything built so right away people can get in there and start enjoying it. But we're looking at Q3 of 2023 at this point, with a land sale probably coming in Q1.
Okay, that's good to know. And I mean, transparency, it's key, and having all this communication with your community, it's great. Josh, so you mentioned that you had a new release today. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And also, can you tease us what's in store for 2023?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've got we are always doing a lot, right? I mentioned earlier how we release something almost every week, at least quality of life, things like that. This week, hopefully later today, in fact, we have our first and probably largest portion of our new Dungeons and expansion that is being launched. To give you the briefest I possibly can explanation for that, we have a set of 3 heroes that are stylized in kind of a tabletop style. They're a little figurine on a little disc base in style, and they look really great. Very, very high quality. We worked for almost 6 months on the entirety of the art. Wow. So very, very serious amount of a project here. And so we have 3 characters across 6 rarities. with a total of 30 equipment sets with 11 pieces per set. And each of those 11 pieces has 3 color variations.
And these
You
are all
could do the math.
NFTs.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
it's massive. It's very, very serious. And the color variations aren't individual NFTs. Actually, the equipment pieces contain all 3 color variations within the NFT as a free bonus. So that's just a freebie that we give to everyone. And essentially, we've created a system, and it's been a pretty serious undertaking. I don't know any contracts that are quite as complex as this one. And essentially, it is almost a system where you're building a PFP that is dynamic and can change all the time. And so what you have is you have a hero, of course, and then you have all the way up to 11 pieces, or any combination of less than 11 for all the different slots. And you customize their look, you customize the colors, and then you play the game. And your hero then in the gameplay will have the appearance of the base and the pieces that you've put together. And then with that, we have a serious amount of monsters that very, very high quality. We spent a lot of time on that you'll be able to fight. You'll be able to collect loot. You'll have bosses that you earn every 15 battles, and just a huge amount of depth for players to engage in. And it is all of that. It's like, oh, customizing characters and equipment, that's no big deal. MMOs have been doing it for 20 plus years, but have they done it 100% on chain? No one has. It is 100% on chain, and it is very unique to us in that respect. What's coming next? There's always more, right? Our heroes, right? There's only a limited amount of them that are available, and so players will have a lot of work climbing their way up from lower rarities to higher rarities, defeating monsters, collecting more equipment, etc. We do expect the process of working towards the first mythic hero, maybe even taking months of player game time to actually achieve. It's going to be a very serious effort. We're not going to sell any of them ever. It is 100% for the players to earn by playing. And what comes next? PvP is something that players have been asking for. Can we pit our heroes against each other? Can we, put up some tokens and fight each other, and winner takes all, and just some different ways to engage with their assets? And so PvP is something that is very much on our minds. We've designed a system. We actually have designed 2 systems. One for a simpler head-to-head, 10 to 15 minutes tops, little gameplay system that players can engage if they wish to. And then also we've started doing some work on kind of a global, like a war game style world map where players, thousands of players can all battle over a grid style map with all the different locations and things like that. Should be really exciting. Will definitely be higher stakes being PvP. So it's players against players, and winner take all kind of a thing. So a lot of risk there that some players will love it, some players won't, but we want to make sure that in our ecosystem we've got a little bit of everything. And so lots of different things coming. With our vast customization system, there's always room for more. A couple of different people have asked for seasonal stuff. Can I get a Santa hat for my heroes? And we don't have that built yet, but maybe in the future we'll be able to start doing some seasonal cosmetics and things, and people can just go crazy expressing themselves and designing a hero and building it, putting it together, collecting set bonuses, all these things as much as they want. And we're very excited about it. The hero customization and staking with all the different equipment is hopefully launching today, with battling the monsters and collecting loot likely coming next week.
Nice. That's a great way to get us hyped and to get the audience hyped. We're about to wrap up. So Ian, in less than 30 seconds, if you had a crypto-related superpower, because I always finish this with a fun question. If you had a crypto superpower, what would it be and why?
I feel like it would just be I would love to be able to transfer into other things and be liquid, like Bruce Lee. You know, be fluid, be liquid, be able to make changes not only to my project but to myself as a CEO and as a human being, and be able to know when I need to improve myself, improve my project, and improve the community.
Awesome, Josh. In less than 30 seconds, go ahead.
Crypto superpower. That's a crazy question. I like it. It's off the wall. I love it. If we could just have the ability to have our voices heard, right, throughout all the internet, I think that would be the power that I would choose. Just the ability to be heard. Sometimes we see so many awful projects that get propped up somehow in different creators, different media outlets. And it's, and people then they go with the terrible project, they have a horrible experience, and then they leave crypto. And it's like, no, don't get caught up in these scam projects. Find the good creators, find projects like Woo, find projects like Castles. And if we can just have the good creators be heard and drive traffic to the real authentic projects, that would improve everything for everyone so much.
Definitely. Carl, just to close this up, what about you?
Yeah,
I
would.
Don't say having 30-hour days.
Naturally,
That's a good one.
Yeah, that would be a great one. Naturally, I would want the superpower of knowing exact dates, knowing the soons and whens. If you could, if I could know the precise day that we would be, that the devs would be done with X, Y, and Z, then I would be invincible.
Okay, guys, that's it from us. This was Chain Chatter episode 4. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And if you're watching this later on, make sure to join us. It's every Thursday, usually at noon, but we try to keep it at noon, but sometimes because of founder's schedule, we have to change that. Thanks everyone. See you next week.
Woo!
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay.